herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything.
When you think of reggae legends, the first things that probably come to mind are catchy rhythms, conscious lyrics, and yes, a bit of the mystical vibe that comes with island life. But behind the music and fame, some of these stars had habits that were, let's just say, unusual and sometimes dangerous. From obsessive routines to strange addictions, these habits shape their music, personalities, and in some cases, their very lives. Today, we're taking a closer look at 15 reggae legends and the bizarre addictions that followed them. So, grab your headphones and let's get into the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Bob Marley. Bob Marley is probably the first reggae legend that pops into your head when you think of the genre. He gave the world timeless songs, a message of unity, and of course, an association with ganja that has become legendary in its own right. Bob's relationship with marijuana wasn't casual, it was deeply ritualistic. He saw it as a spiritual tool, a way to connect with his creativity and his Rastafarian faith. For him, lighting up wasn't just about relaxation. It was part of a daily ritual that influenced his writing, his performances, and even his perspective on life. Some fans might chuckle and think Bob was just a laid-back musician, but his use of ganja went far beyond just recreational smoking. Marley believed it helped him meditate, reflect on social issues, and write lyrics that resonated with millions worldwide. It was so central to his lifestyle that it became part of his public persona, and in a way, it helped define the Marley brand that we still celebrate today. Interestingly, Bob's ritualistic approach also meant he had rules around his use. He wasn't randomly smoking throughout the day. It was intentional, purposeful, and deeply tied to his spiritual and creative process. While some might argue that it's an addiction, others see it as a disciplined practice that fueled his music. Regardless of how you frame it, there's no denying that his cannabis use became a defining aspect of his life story and his legend. And yes, it made him an icon of counterculture, someone who didn't just sing about freedom, but lived it in his own way. From One Love to Redemption Song, the influence of his habits, both personal and creative, shines through. Bob Marley's story reminds us that sometimes the line between lifestyle, ritual, and addiction can be a little blurry, especially when it's wrapped in the rhythm of reggae. Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh was a rebel in every sense of the word. While Bob Marley had his peaceful, spiritual approach to ganja, Tosh turned it up a notch with an almost legendary obsession. For him, cannabis wasn't just a tool for meditation. Tosh used it openly, proudly, and sometimes provocatively, demonstrating to the world that he was serious about his beliefs, music, and lifestyle. But alongside the high notes of his creativity, this obsession sometimes brought out a more confrontational side. Tosh's strong personality, combined with his habits, created a persona that could be both inspiring and intimidating. Stories from fellow musicians and friends suggest that he could be fiery when challenged, especially if it involved his use of cannabis or his stance on social issues. Some even say he could be confrontational for the sake of confrontation, a mix of principle and the intensity that fueled his music. Tracks like Legalize It weren't just songs, they were declarations of identity and belief, fueled by the habits he refused to hide. But Tosh's obsession wasn't just about advocacy or rebellion, it also shaped his work ethic and his approach to music. He poured energy into writing, recording, and performing, often under the influence, which added a raw, authentic quality to his sound. It's hard to imagine some of his greatest tracks without the influence of his rituals and habits, as controversial as they might have seemed. Ultimately, Peter Tosh's story shows us that a strong addiction or obsession doesn't always erase talent. Sometimes it shapes it. It highlights the complex relationship between lifestyle, personality, and creativity in the reggae scene. While his cannabis use and confrontational streak may have caused tension at times, it also helped carve out a legacy that refuses to be ignored. Tosh remains a symbol of defiance, passion, and the power of living unapologetically. Gregory Isaacs. Gregory Isaacs, famously known as the Cool Ruler, had a smooth voice that could melt hearts, but behind the silky songs was a very real struggle with heroin addiction. Unlike the casual or ritualistic use of ganja seen in other reggae stars, Isaacs's relationship with drugs was serious and dangerous. Heroin wasn't just a habit for him. It became a major challenge that affected both his personal life and his career. Isaacs's addiction started in the 1970s and intensified through the 1980s. During this time, fans enjoyed hits like Night Nurse and Rumors, not knowing the battles he was quietly facing off stage. Heroin use impacted his reliability, led to health issues, and even caused tension with producers and collaborators who struggled to keep up with his unpredictable schedule. But Isaacs's talent was undeniable. Even at the height of his addiction, his music carried an emotional depth and vulnerability that few could replicate. Some would argue that his experiences added a haunting layer to his songs, but that doesn't erase the very real risks he faced. What makes Isaacs's story particularly compelling is how he continued to create despite his struggles. Many artists might have fallen completely off the radar under the weight of addiction, but Isaacs kept performing and recording, sometimes under extremely challenging circumstances. His perseverance reminds us that talent and human frailty often coexist in complicated ways. There's also a cautionary tale in his life. The Cool Ruler's battle with heroin demonstrates the thin line between creative expression and destructive habits. While fans might focus on the smooth vocals and romantic ballads, understanding his addiction gives a fuller picture of the man behind the music. Gregory Isaacs's story is a blend of brilliance and struggle, showing how personal demons can shadow even the most celebrated careers. So, Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown, known as the Crown Prince of Reggae, had a voice that could soothe even the most restless soul. But behind the smooth melodies and heartfelt lyrics was a hidden battle with alcohol addiction. While his public persona was often calm and approachable, his private life told a different story. Managing fame and constant touring created pressures that he tried to escape, and alcohol became his coping mechanism. Brown's struggle with drinking wasn't just a minor detail. It influenced both his personal life and professional career. He would sometimes miss recording sessions or performances, and friends noted that alcohol could amplify his emotions, making personal relationships tricky to navigate. Still, his talent remained undeniable. His songs like Love Has Found Its Way and Revolution carried an authenticity that came from experiencing both joy and struggle firsthand. Fans may not have known the battles he faced, but the emotion in his music spoke volumes. What's interesting is how Dennis Brown's addiction highlights the human side of stardom. Fame might seem glamorous from the outside, but the constant spotlight can create a sense of isolation. For many artists, substances like alcohol become a temporary escape. Brown's case is a reminder that behind the hits and tours, there was a man trying to handle pressure while maintaining his art. Despite these challenges, Dennis Brown remained incredibly productive and influential. His addiction may have created hurdles, but it didn't stop him from leaving a lasting mark on reggae music. Today, his songs continue to inspire new generations, and understanding his struggles makes his achievements even more remarkable. Dennis Brown's story is a mix of talent, vulnerability, and perseverance, showing that even legends have their battles behind the scenes. Sugar Minott. Sugar Minott was a powerhouse in reggae, known for pioneering the dancehall sound and mentoring younger artists. But behind the catchy tunes and smooth vocal delivery was a lifestyle shaped by two notable obsessions: marijuana and fast cars. Both played a significant role in defining his personality and public image, making him one of reggae's most colorful figures. Minott's use of marijuana was a common thread in his daily life, much like it was for many reggae artists. However, he combined it with an extreme passion for speed. His love for fast cars wasn't just a hobby, it was almost a lifestyle statement. It reflected the thrill-seeker side of his personality and added an edge to his persona. Touring and recording might have been demanding, but Sugar found release and excitement behind the wheel, just as he did through his music. What makes Minott unique is how he balanced these obsessions. While some might view marijuana use or fast cars as distractions or even dangerous habits, he incorporated them into a creative and ambitious career. He didn't just perform, he innovated, launching his own sound system and record label, which helped shape the next generation of reggae artists. You could say that his passions fueled both his music and his entrepreneurial spirit. Yet, it wasn't all smooth cruising. His lifestyle carried risks, from car accidents to potential legal issues with substance use. Still, Minott managed to maintain his career and legacy despite these challenges, showing resilience that matched his charisma. Sugar Minot's story is a reminder that sometimes an artist's quirks and obsessions aren't just footnotes, they're part of the driving force behind their creativity and influence. Junior Delgado. Junior Delgado was a talented reggae singer known for his smooth vocals and socially conscious lyrics. But like many in the music scene, his life included struggles with substance use, particularly marijuana and other stronger drugs. While he produced some of the most soulful tracks of his era, these personal challenges often complicated his career and daily life. Delgado's relationship with drugs was not merely recreational. Marijuana was part of his routine, influencing both his creativity and his social interactions. On top of that, there were reports of experimentation with harder substances. These habits weren't hidden from the public eye, though they didn't define him completely. Instead, they added layers to the story of a man balancing artistry with personal struggles, highlighting the pressures that can come with fame and the reggae lifestyle. The impact of these addictions on Delgado's career was significant. While his music remained soulful and compelling, the instability sometimes led to missed opportunities or difficulties in collaborating with producers and fellow artists. But his resilience shone through. Despite the challenges, Junior Delgado continued creating music that resonated with fans, maintaining a level of professionalism that kept him relevant in the reggae scene. What's notable about Junior Delgado is that his struggles didn't erase his talent. They shaped the depth and emotion in his music, making it feel authentic and lived in. While addiction is never glamorous, in Delgado's case, it highlights the complex reality of artists navigating fame, personal habits, and creative demands. His story is a reminder that even legends are human, and the pressures of life behind the scenes can be as intense as the spotlight on stage. Garnet Silk. Garnet Silk had a voice that could stop you in your tracks. Known for his high-pitched, soulful singing and conscious lyrics, he was considered one of reggae's brightest stars. But before his spiritual transformation and rise as a cultural icon, Silk experimented with hardness, a phase that contrasted sharply with the uplifting music he later became famous for. Early in his career, Silk's exposure to the pressures of the music industry and the nightlife of Kingston led him to substances that could both numb and excite, while marijuana was common in the reggae scene. He also tried harder drugs, which carried real risks to his health and his budding career. These struggles weren't widely publicized at the time, so fans primarily saw the talent and charisma that would eventually define him. What makes Garnet Silk's story remarkable is the shift from this experimental phase to a deeply spiritual life. After embracing Rastafarian beliefs and spirituality, he distanced himself from drugs and focused on conscious music and personal growth. Hits like Hello Africa and Jah Jah is the Ruler reflected not just musical talent, but a deliberate effort to align his life with higher values. His past struggles with addiction added depth to his music, giving him a perspective that many of his peers admired. Silk's early experimentation also serves as a cautionary tale about the temptations and challenges young artists face. Even someone destined for greatness can stumble, but redemption and transformation are possible. In the end, Garnet Silk's life was a mix of brilliance, struggle, and spiritual awakening, leaving a legacy that inspires both musically and personally. His story reminds us that the road to greatness is rarely straight, but how you navigate it can define your impact on the world. Eddie Grant. Eddie Grant is best known for hits like Electric Avenue and Gimme Hope Joanna, but behind the catchy tunes was a man with an almost obsessive work ethic. While some reggae stars' addictions leaned toward substances, Grant's addiction was to perfection and productivity. He pushed himself to extremes in the studio, often working long hours and obsessively tweaking his music until it met his high standards. Grant's compulsive habits didn't come from necessity, but from a desire to create music that was polished and impactful. He famously took full control over his recordings, sometimes handling multiple instruments, mixing, and production tasks himself. This level of dedication could be exhausting, and those close to him often noted that he rarely took breaks or stepped away from his projects. While it wasn't harmful in the same way substance abuse can be, it shows a different kind of obsession, one rooted in ambition and a perfectionist mindset. What's fascinating about Eddie Grant is how this work obsession shaped his career. He became a self-reliant artist, producing globally recognized hits that still resonate today. At the same time, it came with trade-offs. Friends and collaborators sometimes struggled to keep up with his pace, and Grant had to find ways to manage the mental and physical strain of his relentless drive. In a way, his story highlights that addictions aren't always substances. They can be behaviors, routines, or obsessions that dominate your life. Grant's commitment to perfection produced incredible results, but also serves as a reminder that any habit, even positive ones, can become consuming if not balanced. Ultimately, his dedication cemented his legacy in reggae and pop music, proving that an addiction to craft can be just as powerful as any other. Michael Prophet. Michael Prophet, sometimes called the singer's singer, had a deep, resonant voice that made every track feel personal and intense. But behind that smooth delivery was a life complicated by substance use. Rumors have long circulated that Prophet struggled with both marijuana and alcohol, and while he remained a prolific artist, these habits shaped parts of his career and personal life. Marijuana was common among reggae artists, and Prophet was no exception. It was part of the creative process for many musicians, but in his case, it sometimes tipped into dependency. Alcohol reportedly added another layer to the challenge, creating cycles of highs and lows that affected both performance and reliability. While fans may have focused on his music, insiders noted that Prophet's lifestyle could be unpredictable at times. Despite these struggles, Michael Prophet's talent was undeniable. Hits like Gunman and Your Love showed that his personal challenges didn't stop him from producing powerful, memorable music. In fact, some would argue that the depth of his life experience, good and bad, added emotion and authenticity to his performances. The rawness in his voice often reflected a man who had lived through highs and lows, making his songs resonate even more deeply. His story also serves as a cautionary tale about the pressures of the music industry. The combination of touring, public expectation, and personal habits can take a toll on any artist. Prophet's life shows how even someone at the top of their game can struggle with balance, highlighting the human side behind the music. In the end, Michael Prophet's legacy is defined by both his unforgettable voice and the challenges he navigated along the way, making him a figure of both talent and complexity in reggae history. Prince Far-I. Prince Fari, known for his deep, commanding voice and unique chanting style, was as disciplined in life as he was powerful on record. Unlike many reggae artists whose addictions centered on substances, Far-I's peculiar obsession was with strict routines and dietary habits. His lifestyle was meticulous, almost ritualistic, reflecting a man committed to maintaining control over his body and mind. This discipline extended beyond diet. Prince Far-I approached his music with a methodical intensity. He maintained a consistent schedule, ensuring that his recording sessions, performances, and even personal practices were orderly and precise. Some might view it as eccentric, but for Far-I, it was essential to his creative process. The same energy he brought to structuring his life translated into the rhythm and flow of his tracks, giving them a sense of authority and power unmatched in reggae. Far-I's obsessive habits were unusual in the music world, where unpredictability and improvisation often reign. He preferred stability and routine, which some contemporaries considered extreme. But this discipline also protected him from some of the pitfalls that other artists faced. While many struggled with drug or alcohol addictions, Far-I's focus on health and structure allowed him to channel energy into his craft rather than personal chaos. However, his extreme routines weren't without challenges. The intensity of his focus sometimes made collaboration difficult, and his unwavering adherence to his habits could create tension with others in the studio or on tour. Despite this, the results speak for themselves. Prince Far-I's music remains influential, demonstrating that sometimes an obsession with order and self-discipline can shape a legacy just as much as any substance or lifestyle habit. His story is a reminder that addictions and obsessions take many forms, and even unusual ones can contribute to greatness. Hugh Mundell. Hugh Mundell was one of reggae's brightest young talents, often compared to Bob Marley for his conscious lyrics and soulful delivery. But behind his musical brilliance was a lifestyle shaped by cannabis use and the party scene of Kingston. For Mundell, marijuana was more than just a habit. It was part of the culture, a social and creative tool that influenced his songwriting and performance. Mundel's use of cannabis, while common in the reggae community, was accompanied by periods of heavy partying. His short life and career were filled with performances, late nights, and the energy of the music scene, which sometimes pushed him into risky situations. Though he maintained professionalism in the studio, the combination of substance use and nightlife exposed the challenges young artists faced while navigating fame. Despite these obstacles, Hugh Mundel's music was remarkably focused and mature for his age. Songs like Africa Must Be Free by 1983 showcased his political awareness and lyrical skill. His ability to produce such insightful work while managing a lifestyle that could have easily derailed him speaks to both his talent and determination. The duality of creativity and indulgence was a defining feature of his short but impactful career. Sadly, Mundel's life was tragically cut short at just 23, highlighting the risks associated with fame, nightlife, and substance use in the reggae scene. His story is a mix of brilliance, potential, and the consequences of choices made in a high-pressure environment. Yet, even in his brief career, Hugh Mundel left a lasting legacy, demonstrating how creativity can shine through even when life is complicated by addiction and indulgence. Tenor Saw. Tenor Saw, born Clive Bright, was one of the defining voices of dancehall in the 1980s. His distinctive vocals and catchy melodies earned him hits like Ring the Alarm, but behind the music was a lifestyle marked by heavy cannabis use. While marijuana was common in reggae culture, for Tenor Saw, it was a significant part of his daily life, influencing his creativity, performances, and personal choices. His heavy use of cannabis didn't just affect his music, it also played a role in his sometimes erratic behavior and lifestyle decisions. Friends and collaborators noted that while he could deliver flawless recordings and energetic live performances, there were moments when his substance use complicated work schedules or personal interactions. This duality of talent and indulgence is a pattern seen with many artists, where the very habits that inspire creativity can also introduce risk. Tenor Saw's story is made even more tragic by his untimely death at just 29. While the circumstances of his passing remain somewhat unclear, his lifestyle choices, including cannabis use, were part of the high-risk environment that contributed to the brevity of his life and career. Despite these challenges, his music continues to influence artists decades later, demonstrating that creativity and talent often shine through even when life off-stage is complicated. What makes Tenor Saw memorable is not just the catchy rhythms and memorable hooks, but the authenticity that came from his lived experience. His story serves as both a celebration of his musical gifts and a cautionary tale about the impact of substance use on longevity and stability. Tenor Saw's legacy reminds fans that behind every hit, there's often a complex human story, shaped by both talent and personal challenges. Toots Hibbert. Frederick Toots Hibbert, the legendary voice behind Toots and the Maytals, was a powerhouse in reggae, delivering classics like Pressure Drop and 5446 Was My Number. But behind the energetic performances and infectious tunes was an unusual addiction to performance itself. Toots was so dedicated to touring and performing that it became a driving obsession, sometimes pushing his body to extreme limits. His commitment to live shows and studio sessions was relentless. Even when exhausted or under the weather, Toots would continue performing, fueled by a deep love for music and a connection with his fans. While this dedication might sound admirable, and it certainly is, it also highlights the dangers of being consumed by your craft. Exhaustion, stress, and physical strain were all part of the price he paid for his obsession with delivering consistent performances. Toots's addiction to performing wasn't about ego, it was about passion. He thrived on the energy of the audience, the sound of the music, and the connection his songs created. But like many obsessions, it came with trade-offs. Long tours meant limited rest and time away from personal life. Constant recording sessions could strain relationships and health. Still, Toots never let these challenges slow him down, often describing the stage as where he felt most alive. This kind of addiction reminds us that obsessions aren't always harmful in a traditional sense, but they can shape lifestyle and health in profound ways. For Toots Hibbert, the desire to perform and give his all to the audience became a defining part of his identity. It's a testament to the power of passion and dedication, showing that sometimes the habits we think of as addictions can also fuel greatness. if we manage the balance carefully. Delroy Wilson. Delroy Wilson, often called the Gentleman of Reggae, was one of the most influential singers in ska and early reggae. Known for hits like Better Must Come and Cool Operator, Wilson had a smooth, soulful delivery that made him a favorite among fans. But behind his charming persona, he struggled with alcohol addiction throughout much of his life. Alcohol played a significant role in Wilson's personal and professional life. While he continued to record and perform successfully, there were periods when drinking affected his reliability and health. Friends and collaborators often noted that alcohol could amplify mood swings or create challenges during tours and studio sessions. Still, Wilson's talent and dedication to music shone through, allowing him to maintain a strong career despite the hurdles. Delroy Wilson's battle with alcohol also reflects the pressures faced by many artists in the reggae scene. Touring, recording, and the demands of fame can create stress and isolation. For Wilson, alcohol became both a coping mechanism and a part of his lifestyle, showing how even the most respected artists aren't immune to struggles with addiction. What makes his story compelling is how his music remained impactful, despite his personal challenges. His smooth vocals, heartfelt lyrics, and ability to connect with audiences never wavered. Songs like Rain from the Skies and Stay a Little Bit Longer demonstrate that addiction, while disruptive, did not diminish his creativity or his influence on reggae music. Delroy Wilson's life is a mix of talent, charm, and vulnerability. His story reminds us that addiction can touch anyone, even beloved legends, and that resilience, passion, and the love of music can carry a person through even the most challenging periods. Wilson's legacy lives on, both in his songs and in the lessons his life offers. Junior Byles. Junior Byles is best known for his soulful reggae classics like Fade Away and Curly Locks, but behind his music was an unusual mix of obsessions. Byles was deeply committed to spiritual rituals and, at times, combined this with excessive cannabis use. These habits shaped both his lifestyle and his music, giving him a distinctive presence in the reggae world. Byles's spiritual practices went beyond casual belief. He immersed himself in rituals and practices that he felt connected him to a higher purpose and provided guidance in his life. This obsession with spirituality was intense, sometimes consuming significant time and energy. Combined with cannabis use, it gave his music a unique depth and a reflective, almost mystical quality. Fans could sense the earnestness and dedication in his performances, even if they didn't fully understand the rituals behind the scenes. While his spiritual focus provided inspiration and grounding, it also had its challenges. Byles sometimes struggled to maintain consistency in recording and touring due to the intensity of his personal habits. The combination of cannabis use and ritualistic devotion created a lifestyle that was both fascinating and demanding, highlighting the complex balance between personal beliefs, addiction, and artistic output. Despite these challenges, Junior Byles's music remains influential. His songs are noted for their emotional resonance and conscious messages, showing that personal habits, even unusual ones, can influence creativity in meaningful ways. His story demonstrates that addiction doesn't always follow the expected path. It can intersect with spiritual pursuits and lifestyle choices, creating a unique dynamic that shapes an artist's legacy. In the end, Junior Byles reminds us that creativity and personal habits are often intertwined. His music reflects a life lived fully within his own terms, a blend of devotion, passion, and struggle that left a lasting mark on reggae history. From Bob Marley's ritualistic ganja use to Junior Byles's spiritual obsessions, these artists lived lives full of passion, creativity, and, yes, unusual addictions. Their stories remind us that behind every hit song and legendary performance, there's a human being navigating challenges, quirks, and habits that shaped who they were. Which of these addictions surprised you the most? Drop a comment below and let us know. And remember, even legends have their struggles. It's what makes their music unforgettable.